Mooresville, keeping that information, being able to access that information, and ensuring that the information that we have is secure.
Yes. Yeah, that's really one of the main things. So you've got mandates from the federal level, then you've got mandates, state statute, and then we've even got local policies and local procedures, how we handle documents and all that. So to your point, just keeping all that secured and locked and making sure that if something happens, we have the ability to either recover it or come up with it. So it's definitely a lot to look at. And there's a lot of things to think about around that.
So talk to me about if something happens to it. What are the threats that local government faces, and how do we combat that?
Yeah, I mean, so the kind of the threat landscape has changed over the years. So at first, it was big companies. It was Boeing. It was Lowe's. Big corporations were being taken down because they were millions of dollars that could get gone. So now it's a little more just everybody could be affected. I mean, you at home, people may lose thousands or tens of thousands, which to you means a whole lot of money.
Sure.
So really, the threats across the landscape have changed. So small towns have to look at as if they were a big corporation because they could be hit at any point in time. So you've got to know where the attacks are coming from, and you've got to have multiple systems in place. Be it traditional firewalls and endpoint protections, but more so than that, now we've got to have layers on top of that, watching those layers, internal and external.
And backups of all the
And
information.
backups of the backups and replications of the backups of the backups, and then even off-site and off-network backups. So
On top of that is making sure that the people who are actually in the environment have proper training on what to look out for. One of the bigger, it's no secret that the users are the biggest security risk for any place that there is anything to do with information technology. So the more they can be educated to what they need to look out for, the better they know how to essentially recognize a threat and inform IT that there's a problem. There's plenty of times where you'll see an email that might look like it comes from your boss. I think the one that most are familiar with is, oh, hey, can you run down to the store and get me 10 credit cards or gift cards to go to some other, like to Apple or Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being able to recognize, hey, that doesn't look right, and then who to contact, how to get to them in a normal or in a quick manner, so they can, as IT professionals, we can respond to that, block the threats, and essentially, keep everybody safe. It's a big proponent of that, is making sure that users know what to look for.
yeah, and we definitely live off that see something, say something type environment. So you're not bothering us if you come and ask us a question or send us an email to take a look at. Like, that's what we want. That's what we hope for, is that everybody is extremely suspicious all the time, which is why we try to trick everybody all the time.
Oh, yes, you do. And so I report everything as phishing.
Oh,
If
yeah.
it comes in my email and I'm not expecting this, it is phishing, 100%.
Yeah, and we keep track of everybody's scores to know who's doing good and who's doing bad and who needs some remedial training.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that offline if I need remedial training or not. Well, guys, this is, it sounds like a really daunting task, and you must have great support, whether that is directly through a team or whether that is through your elected officials and leadership at the town. I know that IT isn't just, kind of like we've talked about before, it isn't just the computer monitor. It isn't just the software that you use to register for Parks and Rec. It can involve a lot of things like vehicles
Yes.
and equipment. So talk to me a little bit about that, the non-traditional IT things.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the biggest is definitely in our realms is public safety aspects of it. So police cars, fire trucks. So, it's not just you drive a truck now and it's got a hose on it, it's got water. They have to get the 911 calls. They have to operate the 911 calls, dispatch. We've got, GPS tracking location for all the vehicles. Each of the officers has computers, and the fire trucks have iPads or computers as well. So every bit of that is technology in some form.
Yeah, and I know with our officers in Mooresville, they operate mostly out of their cars. They
Yes.
don't go into a traditional office. They don't have a traditional office space designated for each individual officer because they have everything they need in their cars, even a printer to print off reports if they need to.
Yeah, and those vehicles are critical for them. It's how they write citations. It's how they get their tickets. It's how they do their calls. It's how they check the warrants. It's how they just operate in general. So without that, you're back at pencil and paper, and I don't think anybody wants to go back to that world.
Now, is there a reason that they leave the cars running a lot of times? Is that because like it's your computer you don't want to restart?
I would say the sheer amount of technology in the car, if they ran it, would just take the battery down in about 2 seconds. So that's why one of the main reasons that the vehicle runs pretty consistently.
On top of that, it's also just to be able to respond at a moment's notice. You never know when someone's going to go blaring past you and you have to go after them. Another big piece of that is understanding that, especially with body cam technology that's come a long way, it's as much as if an officer gets dispatched to a call, it'll automatically cut their camera on top of that, and then the configuration piece of that usually falls on us as well. So making sure that all that is secure and that essentially officers are held accountable for what they are doing. So even the smallest pieces of that you won't really consider until you were able to look under the hood, that any aspect that comes to that, we usually configure, not just troubleshoot. So it's quite a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, and you think about a police officer, just them, for an example, in general, they've got their laptop in the car. That laptop's connected to a printer. The car itself has vehicle cameras front and back for the seating in the back if anybody's inside, or, they've got LPR systems attached. Then on their bodies, as Matt said, they've got the body cam. Those could be attached to the front, could be attached to the head. They also have tasers, which are also pieces of technology because all those register, they update. So, pretty much everything's got firmware, and they have a timeline of existence. So,
and that's just for your standard patrol officer.
That's
If you
just
get into
yeah.
like specialized equipment, like a traffic unit, they also may have the
LiDAR units for
LiDAR units,
reconstruction
thank you.
crashes, everything. Yep.
Yeah, drone operations.
Star Chase.
Yep, Star Chase.
Specialized equipment for our K9 units.
Yep.
And SRT, all those great things. So there's a lot of layers that goes into this.
Yeah, I mean, even the K9 units specifically have temperature and sensor monitors that, the vehicle's running. If something happens to the vehicle and it cuts off, we get alerted, the officer gets alerted that there is an issue with the vehicle. The K9 is still in the vehicle, so.
And the occasional request to replace the battery in the auto open door.
Oh, yes,
Garage
very
door,
important, the
yes.
auto open
Yep.
door, if you've never seen the K9 demonstration.
Yep.
Well, guys, in our next segment, let's talk a little bit more about how we're using IT to make our communities better for our residents, for the individuals that assist our community, and what we can look towards in the future for it.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, stay tuned, everybody.
More of the Hometown Hour with Megan Suber, Communications and Marketing Director for the town of Mooresville, coming up on WSIC.
Happening now at Randy Marion Ford in Statesville.
Randy Marion in Statesville continues to grow. We have added Mitsubishi on Folger Drive. So what does that mean? That means great deals on a new make and model in Statesville, but it also means Ford Pre-Owned is moved right on Gateway Crossing Drive beside the Ford and Lincoln new car showrooms. So come see us today, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln, Pre-Owned Vehicles, Gateway Crossing Drive.
RandyMarionFord.com.
And now for a look at your weather forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. 40% chance of rain this afternoon, mainly between 2 and 4 p.m. Otherwise cloudy with a high only getting up near 51 and wind gusts as high as 18 miles per hour. Heading through the evening, mostly cloudy skies gradually becoming clear overnight with your low dipping down to 30 degrees. This has been your weather forecast from the WSIC Weather Center.
Here's a WSIC Business Minute with local entrepreneur and host of Local Biz Now, Joe Vagnone.
Simple first steps to opening your small business. Keep good records. Keeping good records will help you monitor the progress and keep track of your startup costs. Register your business correctly. You can go to the SBA website. It is a guide that is absolutely essential for registering a business and attaining important, reliable information on business laws, employment, finance, environmental. Get a good phone. You may want to ensure that your phone is set up and is connected with all of your systems and your computer. Don't skimp on your phone. And while we're talking about it, invest in a quality computer. Don't forget about these tools. They will be very helpful in starting your small business.
This has been a WSIC Business Minute with Joe Vagnone. Listen for tips on how to improve your business daily on WSIC News Talk Now.
In life, we plan for many important things. Weddings, our children's education, retirement. A celebration of life is really no different. Planning and paying for your life celebration in advance will give you and your family valuable peace of mind. We'll help you take care of every detail with professionalism and compassion. We're Lynn Honeycutt Funeral Home. Find us at dignitymemorial.com.
Call now to speak with Megan Suber, Communications and Marketing Director for the town of Mooresville at 844 Studio 4. It's the Hometown Hour on WSIC.
Welcome back to the Hometown Hour. I'm Megan Suber with Town of Mooresville, and I have with me today Chris Lee from Town of Mooresville and Matt Taylor from Town of Cornelius. And during the break, we had an IT question that I'm going to confess I don't even understand what is being asked here. So I'm going to toss this off to Chris.
Yeah, so the question was, what is a rogue access point, and how might it differ from a bug or a virus? So, for the town, we have our own access points, and those are ones that we own. They're on our network, and we put out SSID, so it's what you connect to. If you go to Starbucks, you see Starbucks guest. So we put those out on our network. A rogue access point would be somebody impersonating those
So
connections.
maybe Starbucks with a Z guest.
It would be the exact same name, but it would be coming from, let's say, a bad actor's access point.
Okay.
So people would go to Starbucks, spin up an access point, name it everything the same as the Starbucks one, expecting that you would connect to their network, which then puts you in their environment that they could do malicious things with. So that's an attempt to get you to connect, which they could then deploy bugs or viruses through that. So that would be the differentiator there.
Got it. So what I'm hearing from this is don't connect to public Wi-Fi.
Don't connect to public Wi-Fi. Yes, that's if it's secure and you got a password, you're a little better off because the likelihood of the bad actor would know the password also is unlikely. But yes, wide open public networks, a no-no.
Good to know. The one thing you've learned here today, ladies and gentlemen, don't connect to public Wi-Fi.
Definitely never.
Well, in a previous segment, we were talking about IT for government and how all the different things that technology supports in our government, whether that is the laptops that you traditionally think of, whether that's the online meetings, whether that is the AV support for those meetings, whether that is the police vehicles and all the many, many things that come a part of that. But what are things that our communities are doing to leverage technology to make life better for our residents and visitors, to make things safer, or to make things more fun even?
Yeah, I'll let Matt start on that one because we had one that we kind of implemented together that was, I think, very helpful for the Cornelius community.
So while Chris is at the town, we implemented a GPS tracker for our leaf trucks whenever they're going around doing leaf collection. Same with garbage collection as well. So you can go to our town website and see, oh, hey, are they on their way? Did they miss my spot? It lets you be able to very quickly see exactly where in the line your house is for knowing when your leaf collection is going to come by. So it's really helpful around this season too.
Oh, absolutely. And I would imagine that's a little bit harder to mobilize with. Like if you forget to put your trash can out, you can usually quickly run it out there. You're probably not going to quickly rake up all the leaves in your yard before the truck gets there when it's down the road.
Most likely not. So that kind of branches into what do we do to make the community better? So again, it goes back to what are the issues that the community are having and what information do they need that we can help bring to them? So it's really identifying those and figuring out where technology could help. So, tracking, mapping, even as simple as just planning maps these days. So we have interactive maps through GIS on our website, the Mooresville website. So if you have a question about something that you've submitted that's going through the planning department, you can go on, look at the map, see kind of where it's at in the process. So we're working on updating and providing more information. Water information is also on there as far as meters and everything else. So really getting the information to the citizens, I think, has been one of the kind of critical pieces to that.
And that is actually something I wanted to talk about streamlining processes. I know with Mooresville, we have recently created the one-stop shop for our planning department and building permitting, inspections, and fire marshal. So integrating that technology, which to my understanding, they were using multiple different technologies previously. So integrating it all into one to make things more seamless.
Yeah, so GIS is the back-end database of our information, and it's also the software that everything operates on. So everybody uses it a little different, but everybody comes back to the same bucket of information. And that is what it kind of helps streamline it. So it's not 3 different departments doing 3 different things. We now have one, everybody is one shop and operating out of one system.
Yeah, and in our case, they are quite literally one shop because
They
it is
are.
all one big room.
IT is also there. Stop by anytime.
IT is also there. Well, we do have some fun things, but they're also used for safety, I know, in the town of Mooresville. And Matt, you'll have to fill us in if Cornelius has some as well. We have with our fire and police department, we have a lot of drones.
We do, yeah. Yeah, so each of our fire trucks is outfitted with a drone, and those drones are used in situations that, roll up to a house fire, you can't necessarily see the backside or if it's covered in wood. So we use that sometimes to get a better angle or better vision on what could be going on with the house prior to people actually going in, if need be. It's also used during traffic incidents to kind of reconstruct or redetermine what might have occurred. One of our biggest goals is going to be using drones as first responders. So our hope is that, a 911 call comes in or a call in general comes in, we can dispatch a drone within 30 seconds, be on site, be it a suspect we need to determine, or if the house is on fire or not on fire, so we can alter our kind of alert and approach based on that. So it'll save a lot of time for our law enforcement and fire individuals who.
Absolutely. And I know that Mooresville, it's not a huge community. It's not, New York City. But at the same time, with the law enforcement presence that we have, with the traffic conditions that we have, once a call comes in, it could be, 5 minutes or so before an officer could be there, or even a fire department representative, if that was who was called and dispatched to the call. In that 5 minutes, someone could bleed out.
Yep.
In 5 minutes, the situation could go even farther sideways. In 5 minutes, the suspect could be long gone from the situation. So I've heard about that being talked about previously by different entities, how having those drones and dispatching those drones provides just another level of support for their law enforcement personnel. And it's not necessarily, infringing on anyone's privacy. It's aiding and using technology in a smart and innovative way to give the most information possible to our law enforcement and public safety professionals so that they can better assist our community.
Yeah, I mean, just think about 150 in general. If an officer or fire truck needs to get down that, it's going to take
Highway 150.
Highway 150. Everybody's aware of the traffic on Highway 150,
yes.
I believe. So just think about the amount of time it takes for them to deploy and get to where they need to. So, if you could just instantly flip on a camera that's automatically there on scene, seeing what's going on, I mean, that's kind of a game changer for operations.
And I can imagine, too, that if you paired that with something like night vision or geothermal imaging with those drones as well, it can be helpful in situations where we've had recently several pursuits at night where the cars will black out, which means, of course, driving without lights on. And our officers will lose sight of the vehicles because, if they're half a mile further down the road, it's hard to see what's going on in the dead of night. So having that technology could be helpful in those situations.
Yeah, and most of our newer drones do have IR and thermal capabilities, and we have used them for, even people who get lost in the woods or folks that are
people
lost
who
anywhere,
run
or people who run through the woods.
police.
Yeah. So, that's really something that helps showcase what this technology can do and what we've used it for actively for several years now.
So how many drones does the town of Mooresville have?
Technically, we own 28 drones. We have about 15 that are truly in operation, and those are kind of on a maintenance cycle in and out. So.
And who gets to operate those? Do you have to have any special licensing or anything like that?
Yeah, so the typical pathway for that is to get your FAA license. It's Test 107. Once you have that, then you can operate a drone. There's kind of a starting period that you've got to get through, and you've got to log a certain number of hours, and then you can become officially licensed. We actually have an in-house, he's a helicopter pilot who does our training, our drone training in schools. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know that. Very cool. Well, one other thing, because I feel like we're hitting our first responder technology really hard right now.
Yep.
One other thing that I know that the town of Mooresville utilizes is a ALPR system, which is automatic license plate reader system. And I know that can be controversial with some people, but we've seen great success with it because we have been able to recover stolen vehicles, make connections with cases that may be inside or outside of our jurisdiction with wanted persons or even missing persons. And that's really been critical for us due to our geographic position north of Charlotte and having people come into our territory for nefarious reasons, whether that is simple vehicle theft, whether that is larceny, anything like that. It has helped us keep better tabs on that we may not be able to otherwise, just because of the sheer size of our town.
Yeah, and I'll let Matt jump in a little bit on this one, but, LPR in general, the joke with Mooresville, and I think even in Cornelius, is that we see you coming and going. So we've got these cameras in place, and I think Mooresville, I think we are over 2 million in recovered assets at this point. So, I mean, the sheer dollars in return to folks that have either had a vehicle stolen or had something going on just really makes a lot of difference in people's lives.
And before you jump in, Matt, just for everyone's information, before we dive further into this, our ALPR system, that's not recording and keeping and spying on people's coming and goings. That is only recording for a certain amount of time. It's only lurking and alerting for certain vehicles that are in our system that we use. Correct? It's not necessarily following Megan Suber down the road with what I'm doing because I don't have any alerts in our system to my knowledge.
Well, it is following Megan Suber, but outside of that, typically, so we operate off the state database, so that NCIC has a record of both state and federal tags that have been flagged for warrants or one reason or another. So if those tags are seen as they come through the system, they would then alert our dispatch.
So point of clarity, thank you for clarifying that. It is following people around and watching where they're going, but it's not really.
It's not saving that direct
information.
personal data. It's referencing things from the state databases that hold that information from the state and federal level.
Awesome. Yeah. So more about the automatic license plate readers?
Yeah. We can definitely keep going. I mean, the main thing on that is just tracking. So
sure.
Did you turn left? Did you turn right? What road were you on? So it kind of helps as you enter and then exit, where did you go and where were you coming from?
Okay, we'll hit more on this in our next segment. Stay tuned, everybody.
More of the Hometown Hour with Megan Suber, Communications and Marketing Director for the town of Mooresville, coming up on WSIC.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thanks to everyone who came out to the WSIC yard sale in Statesville. It was so much fun to celebrate with the world-famous Pat Shannon and the entire community. Love bluegrass music? Chatham County Line is coming to Kane Center for the Arts Friday night. Buy your tickets before they sell out. KaneArts.org. Chatham County Line, this Friday night. Doors open at 7 p.m. and the show starts at 8. KaneArts.org. The 20th Annual Pumpkin Fest is this weekend in downtown Statesville. Starting at 10 a.m., come out to downtown Statesville for Pumpkin Fest, a full day of fun for the entire family. Pumpkin Fest, downtown Statesville, Saturday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. For more info, visit downtownstatesville.com. Santa is coming to town. Schedule your time to take pictures with Santa at Birkdale Village. Spots are limited and must be scheduled in advance. Santa will be at Birkdale between November 19th and Christmas Eve. Appointments include time with Santa and 8 digital images from a professional photographer. For more info and to schedule your time with Santa, visit birkdalevillage.com. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays now through November 19th. Time travel to a land of legends. Jousting knights, mermaids, fairies, dragons. Oh my! Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com while supplies last. Don't miss it! The Carolina Renaissance Festival is sponsored by Sunbelt Rentals for all your equipment rental needs. Equipment service guaranteed. Huzzah!
And now for a look at your weather forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. 40% chance of rain this afternoon, mainly between 2 and 4 p.m. Otherwise cloudy with a high only getting up near 51 and wind gusts as high as 18 miles per hour. Heading through the evening, mostly cloudy skies, gradually becoming clear overnight with your low dipping down to 30 degrees. This has been your weather forecast from the WSIC Weather Center.
Now more of the Hometown Hour with Megan Suber, Communications and Marketing Director for the town of Mooresville on WSIC.
Welcome back to the Hometown Hour. In our last segment, we were talking about how IT makes our community better, and we touched on drones. We also touched on the ALPRs, which are the automatic license plate readers. And we have confirmed that those are not spying on us per se. Like the information that is gathered in those systems, unless you have a car or a tag that is associated with any type of criminal activity in the state database or that was entered by either local or regional law enforcement agencies, we're not keeping that data. We're not interested in who's coming and going. We're interested in vehicles and tags associated with that database.
Correct. It'll look at your tag, query the actual tag information to the state database. If nothing comes back, it's dumped.
Yeah, poof, it's gone.
Yeah.
But if something comes back,
Then you're going to get the police on you.
then is when this system comes into play. So everyone breathe easy. If you haven't bought a hot tag off of somebody or your vehicle hasn't been associated with some type of crime, it's okay. Big Brother is not concerned with what's going on. So I know that, Matt, you said that there are ALPR systems in town of Cornelius as
Yes.
well. So how do you guys utilize that?
So essentially, we have them all around town, and the system we have in place uses a little bit of generative AI in it to help reconstruct the images to make sure it gets a proper, clear visual of the tag. Because with any of these cameras, you have fast movements. You have to make sure they're properly calibrated, make sure they can properly see the license plates, and it's not going to give you a false positive. So the system we have has been utilizing generative AI. That's a hard word to say. To essentially reconstruct the pixels to give a proper image to make sure it is exactly the tag that it's showing. And that way we can have a lot more, I guess, consistency based on older systems that would have a lot of false positives or would get partial readings.
Absolutely, because that's definitely what you don't want. You don't want technology to come in and you think is being helpful and has the endeavor to be helpful, and then you are pulling people over that have no association with whatever tag or vehicle you thought that came in.
The big difference between like an S and a 5. Like, it would be
Yes.
the difference between grandma getting pulled over wondering what's going on and Joe Schmo who just robbed a liquor store getting away.
Absolutely. So, Chris, I know that you're very interested in AI and how it can be used for good in local government.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the perfect segment is, we need things that are better, smarter, faster so that we have less false positives. And, AI plays a big part into that, and really just kind of defining what AI is, because it's not Terminator. They're not coming to, Skynet has not arrived yet. It could one day, but it has not arrived.
Today is not that day.
Today is not that day. No, so AI think of it just as a mass computer brain. So, our brains are basically what we're trying to turn AI into. It's just compiling and gathering just hordes of information. How do you do that? So the computers have the ability to process and understand several layers of that at a time, and that's where you start getting to spit out the information that we need now that is more helpful, so that we can arrive quicker, get that correct license plate. We know the color was red instead of blue. LPR specifically, we have the ability to track packages, track weaponry, so you can actually pick out a gun or a rifle versus a broomstick. So, having that in schools and in places will definitely be helpful for just a lot of the incidents that we have occurring right now.
Absolutely. And I can see how this would be on the consumer level. It would be helpful to have more AI in customer service outputs as well. I know anything that can help me get through the automated systems of Amazon or whatever big box company I'm trying to address an issue with without getting stuck in the eternal loop of select option 1, select option 2.
Yeah, and customer service is kind of where a lot of the AI was built from. Walmart, the malls. They wanted to know where you were, what store you went to, how long you stayed at that store, so that they could base advertisements around that. They could base the market material around that, and then that kind of just spun into a lot of other avenues. So now instead of knowing where you are or what you're doing, we're tracking you to know if you have a gun or you have a weapon. Did you leave a bag sitting by a trash can for 2 hours? That kind of stuff.
So a lot of good uses or positive uses within the community, and I know there is still a whole stigma around AI. People think Terminator's coming. There's a lot of, oh, Big Brother's watching me, and there is positives and negatives to it, but trying to focus on the positives and how can we utilize this to keep our community safer and to make our community better.
And one avenue that people may have used for a while now, because AI has been around for quite a while. It's just more recently it's become more of a buzzword. ChatGPT was one of the big ones that really
Sure.
brought it to really the public eye. But even things like Shazam, for being able to recognize a music track that you're listening to, is essentially the same kind of concept of what these are doing. It's being fed in tons and tons of data points that it's able to go and essentially say, hey, this certain beat is part of this song.
Mhm.
At the core of it, that's what a lot of this does. A lot of them are picture recognitions. For example, looking at a weapon versus a broom, it's using picture analytics. Essentially, it's seeing thousands, tens of thousands of images and saying, is this? It kind of looks like this. All right, yeah, that's what it is. Versus it just being, I can't tell because the picture's so blurry. Like, it uses all those data points to then extrapolate what it needs to show you. And that's been around for a while. It's just with the advances in processors, the advances in just computer technology in general has such drastically increased the ability of what we can do with it. So now, I mean, and again, this stuff's not perfect. There are some things that need to have some regulations be put in place because we don't want it to run wild, because
Absolutely.
you do run the risk of people abusing this. Any kind of new technology is very easily abused without proper regulation. But right now, luckily, everyone's seeing the positives more than the negatives of what could be. And using it in applications that we have here is a good example of proper ways of using this.
Yeah. Do I want ChatGPT to help my kids do their homework? Yes. Do I want it to do their homework? No. But it is a very helpful research tool. I think it'll be kind of critical in their ability. I mean, my daughter, she uses a MacBook. It's from the school. They're expected to use technology. So having those tools and stuff in place to kind of help them learn and grow, because it's going to be a technology world. We're not going back to the Stone Ages anytime soon.
We are not going back to those punch card computers that I referenced
we are not.
earlier. Well, good deal, guys. Any parting thoughts on how technology is used in local government?
Public Wi-Fi bad. Don't click links. Don't open attachments.
And as long as your vehicle or tag is not associated with any type of crime,
Yep.
you're good.
You're good. We'll be happy to help you in any way we can.
Absolutely. Well, I know we have a lot of things coming up in the town of Mooresville, but most pressingly, we have our Veterans Week celebrations coming up next week, where we honor and remember America's veterans and Mooresville veterans as well. I know we have a lot of veterans that work for the town. So those kick off on Monday, November 6th with our flag processional and ceremony downtown. I don't think you were a part of that last year, Chris. I think that was before you joined the town, but that is a very moving event that you can just come down to downtown Mooresville and see this great group of people walk downtown, honor and remember all the missing in action, prisoner of war, and veterans. And then on Tuesday, November 7th, we have a military body art event. So that will be held at Richard's Coffee Shop, and you can learn more about veterans' tattoos that they received as a part of their time in service.
Okay.
I know that last year they said that there was a gentleman that stood up and shared where he received some of his tattoos, and it just had the audience like in tears. They were so moved to tears of the story behind where this tattoo originated. So great, a very unique event. And then next Thursday we have Be Someone's Hero blood drive. We also have the Veterans Breakfast, which is hosted by Top of the Lake Rotary, and that event is meant to honor veterans and their family members. November 9th, we have the Military Authors book signing and presentation. And then Saturday, actual Veterans Day, we have the Glenwood Park Memorial Ceremony, the One Nation Under God Luncheon, and the Veterans Day Parade, which is in downtown Mooresville, and that is always a huge event. So many people come out. So many people are a part of that event. So will we see you guys there? Hopefully, Veterans Day for the parade.
That's the hope. And I know Cornelius also has several Veterans Day events and some streaming for that as well. So
Excellent. Well, lots to do around the community. And rounding it off, we have the Camo Up 5K in downtown Mooresville on Saturday, November 18th. And then right hot on its heels is going to be the Mooresville Christmas Parade. And then the Lake Norman Christmas Parade soon after that. So the season is upon us, gentlemen.
yeah, and don't forget the Christmas show in Mooresville.
Oh, the Working Fingers Craft Show?
And now the light show.
Oh, yes. I heard tell that the light show is coming back. How is IT helping us with that this year?
Well, IT is doing it, so that's how we're helping it. So this will be a Christmas light show brought to you by IT.
And where will that be located?
That will be beside Town Hall in Mooresville, downtown, similar to where it used to be.
When's it going to start?
I believe we're kind of gearing it with one of the events. I don't remember the exact date, but sometime soon.
So to be announced.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll announce it on the town website, mooresvillenc.gov, as well as town social media accounts. That's very exciting because that hasn't been around for a couple of years.
It has not, and we had a big, myself and the family loved coming to that and seeing that. So I was sad when it ended, and I know we had a lot of other citizens and folks that were saddened by that as well. So
yeah, and we can't compete with McAdenville. That's kind of on a different scale, but we're gonna try.
Not yet. We may get there. The hope is eventually to have kind of a downtown walk.
Oh, so. Wow. And this is how IT is serving their community.
Exactly right.
Keeping the police cars going, keeping the sanitation vehicles on the correct route, getting us Christmas lights.
Yep, you get your trash taken and your water to your house. And
awesome.
Protected all along the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Matt. We'll look forward to seeing everybody next week for another Hometown Hour.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
The new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC, Statesville, Mooresville, North Charlotte.